Grand Divine Rising, Grand Divine Rise, Grand Rising, Divine Day, Blessed be, so shall it be. Remembering that today is the only day that matters. You are the only one that matters. So in the state of listening to learn, in the state of listening to learn and not to reply, are you asking the questions to be wrong or to be right? Are you asking the questions to be wrong or to be right? Are you open to asking the question, to be open to receive an answer that is in something that is in a space that takes you out of your survival instincts? That's the question that I posed for today. Because this week on the podcast, we're getting into breaking down the walls. And one of the key things that are breaking down the walls is understanding your basis, understanding where you were rooted at. Your root, this is going to be a lot of root chakra work. So I have an exercise, and it's questioning to not be right. It's questioning. If you ask the questions that you really needed to ask, that you truly needed to ask in the inherentness of honesty, what would be the state of, what would you do after you accept, would you accept the answer, and how would you move forward? If you have your answer in front of you, you get the answer based you in that space, and you ask the question, and you get the answer that does not fit your alignment. We'll put it in that space. It doesn't fit your alignment. What do you do next? Do you use that answer to build, or do you use that answer to destroy? We always have one of two choices. Either you're going to be building or you're going to be destroying. It is necessary sometimes to destroy over building, and sometimes it's just important. Building is just important as destroying. So ask yourself that question. The first question that you ask yourself in your meditation is, how was I conceived? How did I create myself? What energy was used in the creation of me? Was the energy that I was conceived from or created myself from based on survival, or was it based on love? A lot of us in that space for ourselves, we are in a space, we're in a mindset where our first initial relationship, where we first came from, it was based upon survival. A lot of our initial relationships, how we came through down in that pipeline in our conception, was based on survival. This is what I think about when I'm thinking about the questioning everything. Questioning based on receiving the answer, being open to being wrong. Questioning to receive an answer and being open to being wrong. The whole point of asking a question is to gain clarity and understanding. This becomes a challenge when we're going into the aspects of our healing ourselves or bringing ourselves into our higher self, because we're designed, the human mentality is to always need and want. So if we have been hurt before, we're coming from a place of survival, we're coming from a place of struggle, we're coming from a place of oppression in our mindset, then even if we're asking a question for clarity, most times when we ask that question based on that clarity is to sustain that space, to sustain that hurt. This is what happens most time when we ask questions. We're asking questions to find out something to fit. We ask enough questions. We barrage people with questions in order to get the necessary answer for us to sustain where we're at. Not understanding that the program that's within that space, we program that space anyway. We're locked into that frequency based on survival. This is why I don't deal with niggas, and this is why I don't deal with these people, and this is why I don't deal with these people. And then you're in that space, so you ask the questions to sustain that space. It's time to challenge yourself. That is your key to challenging yourself. This is the key when it comes to your aspects of your shadow work. Getting to know the darker aspects of yourself, the rejected aspects of yourself. That's going to require asking those questions to yourself that would even turn you away from yourself. This is one of the major keys. When it comes to the aspects of when you're sitting there in your meditation, am I asking these questions based on surviving, or am I asking these questions based on thriving in my aspects of my love and myself? This becomes that process. This becomes bringing those things to the surface. This becomes that honesty, being that transparency within your space. A lot of us are still holding on to things in our past life. So every time that we're dealing with somebody and we're asking them questions, or we're giving them our rundown about ourselves, giving them this image of ourselves, we are automatically projecting those noises from the back of our mind. We're automatically projecting those noises from back here in our subconscious into their mind, because they haven't done there's no sense of training or any type of work that they've done to cultivate themselves. So they become a receiver. So whenever you're in that space and you're asking those questions and you're trying to get an answer, you're projecting the answer for them to thrive inside of your space. They might not even want to say what they're about to say, but you're giving them the program so you can stay within the space that you're in. Because you're asking the questions based on I want to have a reply. This is why I don't do this. This is why I don't deal with these. This is why I don't do this. Because you're stuck in the survival mindset. You've learned how to survive. You've learned how to survive. You learned how to endure the struggle. You've learned how to endure the aspects of the suffering. Suffering is a inherently broken cycle similar to this space. You've learned how to suffer to get what you need. You learn how to suffer to get what you want. But you do not understand that suffering and pain are two different aspects. I go through pain when I go through the aspects of pain every time that I wake up and I go to the gym, beating my body down while setting my intentions, while programming myself for this space before I come do meditate and elevate. Before I do meditate and elevate, before I knock out some readings, before I do some natal charts, I got some natal charts I got to do. I got a session I got planned. I got the God Hour show tonight where we do the live readings and all the aspects of that. That's my work. That's all based upon the pain going through the processes to learn it. Nothing I'm doing is on the level of suffering. So I don't question based on the anatone of suffering. I question based on the aspect of how do you feel? What is the true aspect of the emotion? Why are you upset? Why are you sad? And I sit back and I listen to the answer. Since I'm open to listening to this answer, it shows how deep I can go inside of myself. It shows me how much I'm able to listen to a situation and create my next answer, create my next space. This becomes a problem for most of us because if you can't ask the question to honestly make your boundary, when it comes to setting the boundary, or when it comes to setting the boundary, the lack thereof your boundaries, your boundary issues, not creating boundaries or sustaining boundaries, those issues are deeply rooted into the questions that you're not willing to ask yourself. Remember, honesty is the key to your transparency. You can be on this side of the coin. There's two sides of that coin. Heads or tails. You can pick whatever side you're on. The key of understanding this coin It's becoming transparent so you can see through both sides. This is how you engage this polarity. This is how you engage, and you go from the aspect of survival and suffering, and you unlock your keys to the pain. What laid you down into this position? That's the aspect of you growing. This is us growing. This is us becoming better. This is us becoming stronger. You're looking at a situation right now where you're giving choices, and this goes into the aspect of the choices that you receive. You're given two choices of two extremes. Everything down here, remember, is broken down into the aspects. Everything down here is broken down into the aspects of separated. So you got the unknown, and then you got the known. You got the unknown, and then you got the known. You got two extremes. You never can choose the middle point. Everything down here is designed to keep you away from the middle point. So every question that you ask, is it bringing you closer to the middle point, or is it taking you further away? The individuals that are in your life, are they keeping you away from the middle point of getting to know yourself, your true self, outside of your ego, outside of your identity, and you're getting to know the real self, the real aspects of you, those shadow aspects of yourself? These becomes the real questions. I ask questions to learn. I love when someone asks me a question. I love it because it activates the learning aspect. It activates my occult mind. It activates the aspects of me to learn something. It makes me say, you know what? They asked a lot of questions. There were some good questions. That's where I'm going to go and spend my next day or my next time, because that was a thriving environment. Rather than me going to an environment where no one's asking questions, but everybody has answers. I want to go where they have questions, not answers. Because the answers are truly the questions. If I go into a space where they always have answers, but they never have questions, they're thriving off of the intellectual aspect. So what do you think you know? This becomes the key of asking those questions. What do you think you know? The key is to unlearn and relearn. The key is to instill that and allow that to germinate and create the space for you to thrive in. This week's episode of the God Hour podcast is within the description. God Hour podcast. Week's episode was breaking the walls down. Tune in for the God Thought. Tune in for the weekly reading, the breaking the walls down reading. If the reading resonates with you, allow that knowledge to take you to that next level. The link for the Spotify link for the podcast is in the link. Lucifer Somnies, the Cash App link. G.O.D Alkhemist LLC for the services such as natal chart analysis, shadow work, the shadow reading with the consultation, shadow work services, readings, spiritual products. Hit it up, GODACOAlchemistLLC.com, or you can inbox me. Occult Alchemy is the site for the clothing and the merchandise. And I'll see y'all tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the God Hour Show. Live readings. Bring your questions. Let's build. I just want you to be fucking great. Today is the only day that matters. You are the only one that matters. Because everything from this point of this day is you. What you did today. Everything that you're doing for yourself right now in this moment is going to be into the reflection of everything that is around you that is a part of you. Most of us like to say things like, but I'm doing it for my people. But if you're really not working on yourself to create yourself as the example, you're automatically saying fuck everybody around you anyway. So how are you growing? I just want to see you fucking be great. I'll see you on the night at 7. Tune into the podcast. I love you. We love us. Ashe.